Like many towns across America, the city of Jesup grew up along the railroad tracks that made it the community it is today. Known for many years as the city that trains built, you could find many historic homes located near the train tracks that mark the middle of the city and divided into east and west. Many of the homes from years gone by did not survive progress. This video celebrates the homes that survive today and the families that lived in them. The Clary Whaley House is located on the corner of Southeast Broad and Orange Streets. Willis Clary came to Jesup in 1867 from Appling County, and from his actions and works it is easy to see why he is considered to be the father of the city of Jesup. Clary paid for the first survey of the city and picked his home to be City Lot Number 1. His stepdaughter, Georgia Buena Vista Lee, married Harry W. Whaley, the son of English immigrants William Henry and Elizabeth Burroughs Whaley, who had come to Jesup after the Civil War. After Mr. Whaley's death, Mrs. Whaley would operate the family businesses for more than 40 years, including the Merchants and Farmers Bank. The Whaley name can still be found on the entryway into what was their store 120 years ago. The Samuel Elias Cohen home is a colonial revival house found on the corner of Bay and Brunswick Streets. Being remarkably progressive considering the times and the history of our country, Jesup elected Cohen, a person of the Jewish faith, to serve on the city council and as mayor for several terms, serving as mayor first in 1919, then again in 1933. Sam Cohen and his wife Adele were the owners of a department store that was housed in the Tooten Block building. Mayor Cohen recognized the need for jobs for those in the town that were not affiliated with the Atlantic Coastline Railroad or agriculture. He persuaded the Sea Island Cotton Company to locate a shirt factory in Jesup. This was the first real industry to come to the city and led to a boom in population. The Hampton Lee Heritage Home is located on Bay Street. Hampton Lee Heritage was a Jesup businessman. His wife Fanny taught at the school which was located nearby their home. Mr. Heritage worked as a cashier at the Merchants and Farmers Bank when Mrs. Georgia Whaley was its president. He was also in business with Effie Murphy, together operating the Murridge Company. Mrs. Heritage was famous for requiring all her students to master Palmer penmanship. Further down Cherry Street, you will find the home of Joseph H. and Luindia Wilkins. The Wilkins came to Jesup with the Atlantic Coastline Railroad. Mrs. Wilkins loved to entertain. After electric lights were installed in the home, Mrs. Wilkins hosted a Christmas holiday party where 42 was the game played until a late hour. The Wilkins operated a store on Southeast Broad Street that was something like the Walmart of its day. It even had an undertaking department. Just like the Whaleys, the Wilkins name can still be found on the store's entryway. On the corner of Plum and Wayne Streets, you will find the Florence Spring House. Florence Spring was a riverman who adapted the paddle wheel boat so that it would float high on the water, which made it more easily carry heavy loads in the lower water levels of the Altamaha River. Florence Spring came to Jesup as a young man and lived to see his family become important community members. He was the grandfather of the late coach John Donaldson. Across the street from the Florence Spring House is the David Price House. Price was a sheriff of Wayne County, and when this home was built, there was room behind it for the livestock, cows for milk and chickens for eggs. Possibly the landmark home for the city, the Breen McCann House sits on Cherry Street on the corner of Wayne. The home was built by Frank Breen, a local businessman who wanted his home to have an attachment to Wayne Street, which was the most desirable address in the city at the time. He had the house now located next door, the Hooker Parker House, moved so that his home could be built on Wayne Street. The house would later become the home of the X.Y. McCann family, who relocated here in the mid-1920s to operate the lumber mill at Doctortown. Sitting on her father's knee is Madge McCann Sewell Bellinger, who later became important in the identification of the historic neighborhood in Jesup. The F.E. Murphy Home. The home of Fred Murphy on the corner of Wayne and Orange Street is a Queen Anne style home that was originally built by W.H. McNair, an agricultural agent that came to this area from South Carolina. Mr. Murphy was a prominent businessman in Jesup and operated several businesses, including the Murphy Ice House, which provided ice by horse and wagon to city residents. Descendants of F.E. Murphy still operate a business in downtown Jesup, Murphy Builders Supply. Directly in front of the F.E. Murphy home is the Ellis Gibbs house. This home was originally built by Frank Breen, who would later move to his new home on Cherry Street. The home has had fires throughout its history, which has caused its appearance to change greatly. Dr. Samuel Ellis, a local dentist, lived in the home with his wife, Alma Kicklighter Ellis. Dr. Ellis later served as mayor of Jesup. Later, the Honorable Ben Gibbs, an attorney who moved to Jesup in 1912 from Folkestone, lived in the house with his wife, Florence Revel Gibbs. Ben Gibbs was elected to Congress in 1939 and served until his death in 1940. His wife Florence completed his term of office, making her the first woman to represent Georgia in the United States House of Representatives. Across from the Ellis Gibbs house and catty corner from the F.E. Murphy house is the Leonard Carter home. Another Queen Anne mixed-style house listed on the National Register of Historic Places. The Carter house still has the Carter gate and hitching post original to the home. Leonard Carter was a banker and bought the mail-order house to be built for his bride Florence. Suffering tragic banking and business losses at the hands of thieving employees, Leonard Carter would work to repay those who lost money in his bank at the expense of his health. After he died, his wife would transform some of the upstairs bedrooms into suites with kitchens and bathrooms, and the Carter house would become an apartment building, providing housing for many single school teachers. The Travel House, located on Cherry Street, is also a classic example of Queen Anne architecture, as many houses built during this time period were. The home was built by J.W.C. Travel, who was a businessman in Jesup. When Mr. Travel was sick, there would be a sign on the sidewalk in the front of his house asking the children walking home from school to please be quiet. Today, the home is operated as a bed and breakfast. This home is also listed on the National Register of Historic Places. The home of Elisha and Shady Wilkins is located on the corner of Cherry and Brunswick Streets. Elisha and Shady came to Jesup from Alabama with the Atlantic Coast Line Railroad. Shady was small in stature but big in bossiness and personality. Because of this, people called Elisha Mr. Shady. Shady was famous for her tatting projects and the African violets she grew on the porch of her home. Childless, Shady loved to visit with children, and she would sit on her front porch and wait for children to walk by after school. Because she liked to talk so much, the children would take the alley behind her house so they wouldn't get caught and have to stop. Now empty after having been the law office of Gordon and Hires, the Donaldson-Jordan House was the home of John and Amanda Donaldson, who came to Jesup to work with the railroad, as did many families during this time. This house was later the home of William Hoke and Ruth Donaldson-Jordan. Jesup truly is the city that trains built, and these homes prove the importance of the railroad to the development of the city. Take time to ride around and see these homes for yourselves, but be mindful of the privacy of those who are there now. You will enjoy seeing the city for yourself. Thank you for celebrating the 150th birthday of Jesup with us.